everyone. I'm Erin Green from Pax Christi International, and I'm very happy to bring you this installment of interviews with young Peacebuilders. And today I am sitting with Bianca Pabotoy, who is coming to us from the Philippines. And I'm really excited for this interview. And I hope it will help showcase some of the really cool ways that young people are showing leadership and dedication to the Pax Christi International movement and to peace building. And I'm delighted for this opportunity to chat. So Bianca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you?
Hello everyone, who am I?
Yeah, I know. You can go as deep as you want.
Well, from what I know of who I am, I'm Bianca Pabotoy. I'm 25 years old. I'm from the Philippines. I've been in this line of work for 3 years. I graduated in 2017. I studied Bachelor of Arts in Communication, which is a lot of my classmates in college were surprised that I decided to do a lot of like the peace building work, because in college I was really an active student leader, and I was really interested in peace building. But I think they were surprised to have known that I really pursued it as a professional career, because they all thought I would go into advertising, which I think isn't really that different from doing
No.
campaign work. So because I did an internship in an advertising firm, and it was really such a great setup for me doing campaigns. So yeah, and when I was in college, I was already a member of Pax Christi through Pax Christi-Miriam College. This is like the student arm of Pax Christi Philippines, and we got involved in a lot of peace building and advocacy work as a student. So that was really cool, and I'm very blessed and very lucky that I get to do this for a living now. So yeah, that's who I am.
That's super. So how did you come to Miriam College? And maybe for folks who don't know, you could tell us a little bit more about why Miriam College is a special place for Pax Christi.
So Miriam College is an all-girls Catholic institution, and it's a very known school. My mom, my grandparents, they know it as this prestigious kind of all-girls school. And when I was in college, I was a transferee to the school, because I actually pursued like a medical course for a
Oh,
year.
really? Okay.
Yeah. But I knew I didn't like it, and I knew my heart was really calling out for something different. And Miriam came to me as like a choice, because they're a very good communication school. They have a very good reputation for it. A lot of like broadcasters in the Philippines studied in the school. But I think more than getting a diploma in comm, I really like studying in MC gave me so much more. The school taught me what it meant to be an empowered woman, because it was such a safe place for me to explore what I can do and what I can offer to society as a woman. And I saw it from my professors like Hasmin and
Right.
Loretta. They were my teachers. And seeing them like, wow, a woman can do this. You can go to the UN and talk to people and like talk about disarmament. That was really something so alienating for me, because I never saw anyone do that in the small province I grew up in. And so it was also women empowerment was something I didn't really seriously think of before, because I was like, oh, whatever, it's just like a concept. But then enrolling and graduating in Miriam, it was really, I saw it in people who were around me and in the friends I had. And like women empowerment, they have such a strong advocacy for peace, which I also see so greatly in the curriculum. And yeah, again, it's a very safe space. So yes, that's Miriam. That's my Miriam College education.
It seems amazing. It seems like really just like you guys are so active and, we can't even keep pace with you. So then tell us just generally a little bit more about the context in the Philippines. What kind of work is really important for peace building in the Philippines right now?
Well, so the context in the Philippines, which I really had like a deep dive on, getting into like the peace building work, I realized is highly complex, because there's a lot of issues going on, like self-determination of minority populations, historical grievances brought about by the multiple colonizations in the country, issues
Right.
of governance. Like we have a very bad like political dynasty and like the fuel corruption and we have the proliferation of arms trade. I mean, small arms and light weapons in the country. There are so many weapons, and on top of all of that, we're so vulnerable to climate change. So we have so many typhoons coming in, earthquakes,
Right.
natural hazards, and so everything just mixed together. It's really like I get really overwhelmed because there are so many challenges and so many issues that are like layering upon each other.
Yeah.
um Maybe as a youth, like one major challenge for me for peace in the Philippines is really like understanding this narrative, which may not be something we identify with because geographically we're all apart.
Mm.
And so, for example, an issue in the southern region, which involves a lot of like our Muslim brothers and sisters, it's hard for like a Christian or Catholic friend who lives not thousands, but hundreds of kilometers away, separated by oceans. It's so hard to understand because we're living in our own provinces, in our own bubbles. So I think that's really one challenge I'm getting to see as a young peace builder. It's so hard to encourage people to like listen because they're not affected by it. They're not directly affected by it yet. So
Right.
I think that's one. And historical revisionism is terrifying. It's terrifyingly rampant in the country right now. And
Really?
yeah, and so we had a very dark time in our government where we had a dictator, um, and then now because of misinformation online and so many rumors and everything, they're tweaking history, and young people would easily be susceptible to that. And it's so hard because again there's a different narrative per provinces. Like if I ask people in my province what they thought about the martial law era, they'd be say, oh, we weren't affected because it was only in Manila. And so that's so difficult. Like, how can you explain to
Yeah.
someone who said, oh, I don't relate to it because I wasn't there? And so I think that's really an issue for us here in the Philippines, is because it's hard to build a national unified narrative because of, I
Right.
think, the I mean, like, yeah, that was like one thing I really observed. It's because we're so far apart from each other. And so yeah, that's one. And that's how Spain was able to colonize us. That they used the divide and conquer strategy. And so until now it's still divide and conquer. Yeah.
That's a lot, Bianca. It sounds like every major peace issue in the world is
Yeah.
on your
It's a
plate.
melting pot,
Right?
unfortunately.
Yeah. You're at the
It's a good training
crossroads.
ground for peace builders though.
I mean, I would be, yeah, right. I would be concerned if you weren't overwhelmed. So then tell me specifically more about the work that you're doing in your job, in your employment. So what kind of issues are you working on directly? And maybe where do you see signs of hope or progress? Like how are you kind of tackling some of these massive uh, issues?
Yeah. So the Center for Peace Education, really, it's both like formal and informal peace work that they do in
Mm-hmm.
terms of education. So in Miriam College, for example, they prepare a lot of like in the curriculum, they make sure that peace is incorporated in the lessons, no matter what subject it may be. And I think that's what they also do. That's what we do. We train teachers to be peace educators.
Ah,
Um, we coordinate with, like example, the ministries of education and higher education. We try to um, assist them in how they could again incorporate and mainstream peace ed in their classes and yeah, in their lesson plans. But the other side of it is CP is also very active in like informal education. So for my work specifically, I'm a woman peace security um, project officer, and
mhm.
we're very active in WPS work in the Philippines. The creation of the National Action Plan on WPS, CPE was one of the leaders for that. We're like the academic hand. So my work is I basically do capacity building training with women in conflict affected areas. So we do it in 4 areas with 4 different conflict lines. We have a community facing tribal war, a community facing clan wars, development aggression, and the current issue with the Philippine government and the Communist Party of the Philippines. And
Mhm.
so I do that. We do capacity building training to help them, to help the women build, do gender sensitive peacekeeping and peace building in their communities, and do meaningful participation. And so far, it's been such an amazing experience getting to talk to women on the ground in the community and see them pass on the peace building work within their like families and communities. So yes, so that's what I do specifically.
Sounds amazing. You must be learning so much, having to cover those four very different situations.
And
It
it's
must
all
be,
over the country.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about young people, but now that I've
Mm,
heard you talk a lot about women, could you
mhm.
tell me why young people and also women are important to this kind of peace work specifically?
Yeah. They're important because this is like the favorite answer everyone gives when it's like, why women? Because women make up half of the world's population. And like for a country like the Philippines, we're a young country. So our population is built by I'm not sure of the numbers, but there are really a lot of young people. And you know,
Mhm.
these people, we are super excited to help, and there's this kind of eagerness from young people and fresh eyes is what I usually say. So I think
Mhm.
that's why it's so important to involve the young generations. In terms of women, um, conflict is different to a woman. Like the perspectives of a woman in a conflict affected area is different because they would think about, example, their children, or in terms of like the safety if they go to a rehabilitation or rehabilitation area, like is the it's just going to the toilet safe. And so that's why it's so
Right.
important to have these kinds of perspectives, because it's not just about going to war or uh, having a peace negotiation. Of course that's important, but the other side of it is like lives continue to live while war goes on. And so it's so important to think about how to make sure the lives of the people who are not in the battlefield are as safe and as heard as much as we can. So I think that's why it's so important to have women in these conversations.
That's wonderful. So, one of the things that I'm really hoping to do with these interviews is to showcase that young folks are not the future of the movement. I think there's really this tendency to, think, well, we have to train you and teach you the ways, and then eventually you can take over. What I really wanted to show, and I think you've already done in this interview, is that young people are really the now of Pax Christi International and of peace building work. So, what do you think the movement as a whole can do to better support and create really good space for young people to be creative and to do the work they want to do?
So I think we can do is like what the Center for Peace Education is already giving a lot of the students, um, or offering us young people. It's really spaces where we can lead and do meaningful work. Meaning, like if it's an advocacy we have to do, then let us talk to the parliamentarians, let us write the statements, and let
Mhm.
us, like example, if it's something like if we want to build the capacities of our peers, then let us lead the workshops also. And so because it's not only empowering, it's also affirming to young people that, hey, I can do this, and they trust us enough to do this, so maybe we really are an important member of this kind of work. And I think it's also important that the young people aren't used as a token to say that there are young people. Like say, oh yeah,
Right.
of course we have young people, so there they are, but they're not really doing
Right.
anything. And I think that you show that by making sure we're visible. So yes, like maybe in a meeting, make sure there's a young person, um or when you talk, when the topic is about young people, have young people talk about it, because I think that really it's not just important to us who are speaking, but also to the audiences. Other young people who are watching would see, oh, they're being listened to. So I we do have a space here, and we are welcome at the table. So I think that's very important. And that really welcomes a lot of others to join in. I think that's really what happened to Greta, because when people saw that, oh, Greta's being listened to, a lot of young people were like, yes, then let's join her, because
Right.
they actually want us. They're actually listening to us. I think that's really important.
Of course. That's yeah. I mean, every time I do one of these interviews, I just I feel so happy afterwards. You always have such great ideas, and I also think too, like as you say, sometimes we always have a qualifier. It's always the youth rep or the youth delegate, and sometimes you can just be the delegate, right?
Yeah,
Because you have the
exactly.
expertise in the area.
Exactly.
That's really important. I'll try to keep that in mind. So then just talking about some of the concrete tasks and actions that you take out, what do you think young people are really interested in learning and improving their skills in?
I think really, I think it's I don't know the term, but I think it's a transferable skills. So
Mm.
example, like I think there will be so much investment from young people. Our campaigns would be sustainable because first of all, they feel like, you know, there's a sense of ownership, like, hey, I got to, like, I already have the skill set, so I can do this and I can do this even without like even independently, you know, I can do this with my own community. And yeah, I think skills is really important. It's kind of, because for me, I mean, like when I was like a young student and I would join in on programs. And also I think one thing is also letting young people know that there's a space for everyone to participate in. Because I said I was a communication major. A lot of my friends, I would bring them like, hey, come on, join us in like this webinar about peace and conflict in the Philippines. And they'll be so intimidated. They'd be like, oh, I don't know because I'm not a political studies major, or international relations isn't my cup of tea. But
Mhm.
so of course you already lose a lot of people. You already lose so much like chances of like fresh minds and on others' perspectives. And I think young people really love that. I think that's something this generation is so passionate about. It's doing something more. It's not just earning money anymore. It's like, what can I
Right.
do for the world? And I think that's where it's really exciting now, because young people have this chance and have this avenue. And of course, it's because of older peace builders who made sure that young people can join in. And
Mhm.
so I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now if, you know, if my supervisors or if my predecessors weren't serious about ensuring young women could join the table.
Yeah, it does sound like you've had some wonderful mentors.
I do.
Right. Um, so I'm just going to throw one last question your way. I'm curious because you're a communications expert, and we're living in the middle of all day online Zoom time for the next year or so. Do you kind of have any advice or what we can do creatively now that we're going to be probably in this new normal for probably another year or so? What have you learned from this pandemic times?
I think what I've learned is that we can actually do our jobs from home. No,
Yeah,
that's one thing. Oh, we can work from home. No, I
yeah.
think one important thing is like the world is really small because of the internet. And so
Mhm,
it's so much easier for us to connect to each other, to learn from each other.
mhm.
Um, but if we maximize, you know, Zoom and all these platforms we have online. But I think it is true, a lot of we should like maybe not make it super long, because I think Zoom fatigue is also real. And like you know, it's also like people just turn on the meeting but aren't really there also. So that's also, I think, a big challenge. But I think you know, now with the young people, like social media, you can maximize all of this. There are a lot of I think a lot of like platforms, streaming platforms are also producing a lot of stories, or there are
Mhm.
also a lot of like festivals are becoming online, so anyone can join in. You don't have to fly to France to watch this festival or to be there. So you know, we're it's accessible now. It's more accessible because I think we can maximize on that. And you know, it's a great way to reach so many more people and you know, go out of the comfort zone we have. So yeah, that's what I've learned.
Well, and to avoid Zoom fatigue any further, we'll draw our little interview to a close. It was really, really nice chatting with you. I'm sorry that we didn't get to meet in Hiroshima this year,
I know.
but it's lovely to chat with you, and hopefully, hopefully I'll have reason to come to the Philippines soon and meet you all.
Yes, soon, soon.
And thank you so much for your generosity in sharing with the Pax Christi International Movement. And I'm sure a lot of people will feel really encouraged by hearing from you. So thank you, Bianca.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Pax
Okay.
was my way into the peace building world. So I'm very grateful.
Wonderful. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Me too. All right. Until we meet again. See you soon.
Okay. Thank you.